And hello, everyone. Welcome to WAFER episode number 33. That is the Wartburg Infusion Entertainment Review. I'm your host, Thomas, aka Mr. Wartburg. And alongside me, as always, is Patrick, aka Mr. Fusion.
Greetings and salutations on this wrap up to 2021.
Indeed, it is. Indeed, it is. We're recording this on December 30th, back to back from episode number 32. We're live over at twitch.tv/slash Mr. Wartburg. Right now, where we've got our chat here who's going to be going along with us as we do our top 5 movies and top 5 shows from 2021. We're going to do ascending order, 5 up to 1 plus an honorable mention, and we'll see what our chat has to say about our lists and their own as we go throughout the episode. So, Fusion, where do you want to start? You want to do movies or shows?
Let's go with shows. Let's do shows.
Okay, now I define shows as anything that's got like a weekly release or like a binge release, something that's got specific episodes,
Okay.
and it doesn't, counting all streaming and cable, premium cable, and networks. Like it's
Sure.
all under the same umbrella of shows. You can't really call them TV shows anymore. It's just
Yeah.
shows.
Yep.
So that constraint, your top 5 could be pre-existing, could be specifically a season of like the one that came out this year,
Yep.
or what is brand new. Like I've got a couple brand new ones on my list, but some that are like pre-existing. So, what do you got? Go with your number 5.
Number 5, season 3 of Cobra Kai. I know I pitched this show a lot on here, man, but it had everything you wanted. If you watched the original Karate Kid trilogy, you had the revisit to Okinawa. You had a lot more revisiting with Johnny's mentor. And then we had flashbacks, and then we had a fight. We had at the end of the season, we had a lot of shifting and turning. I like this show because it's very meta, but at the same time, they do a great job of telling a story. They created this mythos from the first Karate Kid movie, but then they've pulled elements from all 3 movies at this point to really carry over this story. And you got the love interest showing up after 30 plus years again, and you tell a much better story it basically he's the anti-hero. That's who Johnny is. He's the anti-hero. He's like the wrestling anti-hero. He's not the good guy, he's not the bad guy. He's just a guy, but this guy is really finding his way in this show, which I really like. And my wife loves this show. So season 3 of Cobra Kai is number 5 for me.
Okay. My number 5 likewise is a show that is been in progress, and it's been a wild ass ride for how this show has been made across almost exactly 10 years, which is crazy for an animated show. And that's Young Justice.
Okay.
Specifically, season 4. We're on Young Justice Phantoms. I think you can tell they've definitely had some budget issues with the newer shows compared to the first 2 runs that were on Cartoon Network. Um, but still, despite that, it is telling incredibly rich, deep cut DC stories in a way that Harley Quinn will like make jokes about those kind of deep stories, but is just like referencing them, right? Like in a good
Yep.
way, in a way that's done well and is funny. You know, like bringing Michael Ironside back as Darkseid, right?
Yep.
Perfect. But Young Justice is doing it in that no, this is a world, and I mean it in the deepest sense. We're getting the magic stuff. We're getting Justice League Dark stuff. We're getting Outsiders. We're getting like stuff with the League of Shadows and Assassins. We're getting Apocalypse. We're getting Vandal fucking Savage, right? And like not treating him as like a one-off villain from the Justice League show. Like he is the villain, right? So cool. And like with like a great cast of characters, and it's easily the biggest roster of DC heroes I've ever seen represented in any medium outside of the comics themselves. So for me, if you love DC Comics, Young Justice is the show. I know it's a cartoon. Get over that shit, because like the guy that made this is the guy that made Gargoyles. So get on your shit and watch that show. Greg Weisman is the man, and he's built a hell of a DC world. Love it.
Awesome. You talk about it all the time. I haven't watched Young Justice. I need to. But you bring up a really good point. These cartoons are no longer just children's shows. Like you could tell a great story on with cartoons,
Yeah,
and there's one in my top 5 that I will get to here, soon. But like it's just one of those things where it's like, man, we've come such a long way with cartoons because everything was so catered towards children and selling toys, that's really what it was it was just an infomercial for 30 minutes, and now they're not like that. Shows like Harley Quinn, it's like, nope, we're gonna tell a
And it's
great
weird.
show
It's super
story.
weird to me. Like to go back to our chat and actually bring them in here for the episode. Chris in chat's like the DC animated universe has always been top notch. The DC animated universe was such a weird microcosm because it's doing
Yep.
all the things we're talking about, but then it stopped and nobody did it again.
Yep.
Like nobody picked up that ball and ran with it. It's
Yep.
crazy to me that that happened. Young Justice is a better DC universe than the DCAU by far.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
We were
doesn't
so
have the individually great like character specific shows. Like there's no
yeah.
Batman animated series happening here, but it's on that level because it's so broad and not super shallow. It's still got some great depth with its main cast of the six that were on the team in season one. Like their through line and heart throughout the episodes, no matter the time jumps or the shift in the focus and the perspective, you're connected to them. And it works just so incredibly well to flesh out a DC universe through those characters. Like they nailed it. You know, like they took that conceit of the Young Justice from the comics, you know, like the next generation of heroes learning how to be heroes together and used that as the lens to tell an entire DC story.
It's so
Awesome.
funny that of all the shows, it's Young Justice, not Justice League,
Exactly.
not JLA, not a Batman, not even it's Young Justice. They've created the mythos, the DC mythos properly within Young Justice. It's so interesting to me. The more you talk about it, the more I think about like I need to jump on this show, and I will here
Plus,
at
they
some
do your
point.
boy Jaime Reyes proud.
I'm a big fan of Jaime Reyes. Wasn't
He's
a big fan of Ted Cord. I'm a big fan of Jaime
Ted Cord's
Reyes.
not in the show at all. He's
Yeah,
referenced and shown in a flashback once, I think. But
good.
Blue Beetle is a major component of season two.
Okay,
Yeah, you're gonna love that season.
awesome. Awesome.
All right, let's move on to number 4.
Number 4. Season 2 of The Boys. This show is the shit. And we are setting
Wait,
up
that was
for.
2020.
Are you sure? Was it
It's
2020?
2020 because I know because it
Oh,
was right after we started doing the show. It premiered, like the
you
sheer
are
premiered.
right. I thought that. Oh, I knew that felt odd. Okay.
But
Well,
again,
then.
shows to how fucked up the pandemic has warped our perception of time.
Oh, my Lord. I cannot believe that we went a whole year without The Boys.
I know,
Wow.
right? We're gonna go 18 months. But
Okay.
my guess is it's in the April March window.
So I'm going to go ahead and put in my replacement, which was my honorable mention. I'm slotting this in. So WandaVision, you get number 4.
Ooh,
WandaVision was weird. We got Darcy. We got White Vision. We got some weird
yeah.
stuff. We got Agatha Harkness.
Who's the dude that plays the FBI guy? Randall
Park.
Park.
Randall Park.
He's awesome.
Um,
Doing the magic with the
yep.
business card. Dope.
Yep. This was a weird show that if you didn't stick with it, it wouldn't make any sense. Um, and unfortunately, the finale was this was of all these shows, this one had like the ending directly impacted by COVID, which unfortunately they were supposed to do a lot of different things, but they still stuck the landing on it, and they paved the way for Doctor Strange 2. Um, I really enjoyed it. I really did. I didn't think I was going to enjoy WandaVision just because the TV show approach was a little odd, and I was like, I knew what it was about, like going into it, but at the same time, I just thought that they weren't going to be able to tell a good story, but they did. I think the ending a little too fast, but like you said, Randall Park was phenomenal. Kat Dennings as Darcy, hilarious. Like there was just so many elements to this show that I really enjoyed. So yeah, and we're getting an Agatha Harkness show out of it. So Agatha Harkness plays into the Avengers as much as she plays into the X-Men, so I can't wait
Be
for
honest, that
her
one
story.
feels like the Book of Boba Fett problem.
You think so? The
That one
Agatha
feels like
Harkness
it's
show?
that there's not an actual show there. People just really like Catherine Hahn.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. But the thing is that at this point you can tie if you've introduced mutants into the MCU, by the time you get to her show, you can dip into mutant
Plus,
stories with
her
Agatha.
show is going to be probably done, like actually go into pre-production post Multiverse of Madness,
Yep. Yep.
and that's
Yep.
going to seriously fuck up some shit. I'm sure.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. So I mean, you're right. It could be a Book of Boba Fett show. It could be.
it could, and again, this might come out if you don't know and you just stumbled across this. We just did our episode 32 where We had took some, let's say, some issues with the pilot episode of the Book of Boba Fett.
Yep.
So, you can go listen to that episode. More or less, it was just a really weird pilot that told us absolutely nothing about the show we were trying
Oh,
to watch.
because I have no idea what year I'm in now. WandaVision, you get slotted in. You get to take the place of the boys. And holy shit, Amazon, where the hell is season 3 of the boys?
The
Come on now.
fact we haven't got a trailer and the Expanse is happening, like eyes are on Amazon right now because the
Yep.
Expanse is awesome. It's the greatest sci-fi show maybe ever if they stick
Yep.
the landing. Like, give us the trailer. I hope season 6 ends and they give us the trailer. That's what I hope. But we'll see what happens. My
All
turn
right,
for
you're
number
number
4.
4.
Another Marvel show. I went with Loki. This one
Okay.
really hit with me because I love that kind of weird retro sci-fi, like mind-bending shit that they did, and they worked it in so perfectly with like Tom Hiddleston as Loki, and then Owen Wilson's character as Morbius,
Yep.
Mobius.
Mobius.
Yeah. Their dynamic was amazing, right? Like the impactful, like emotional scenes. Again, like we said in episode 32, the soundtrack, like that Asgardian music is just like Shakespearean awesome. Like it just so evocative, and it worked perfectly with this setting. Like shockingly good, right? Like you get Richard Grant coming out of nowhere as like old Loki,
Yep.
and like his turn, when he's like decides to show up and help anyway, like it hit so hard, and we just met the guy 15 minutes ago, right? Like it could tell those stories, but it's not in the top 3 because its finale absolutely face planted with an exposition dump from Immortus, who's again, they actually nailed as the comic because in the comics the guy's a windbag,
Yeah.
right? Like, but the show didn't need a windbag. The show needed some cool shit, and we didn't get cool shit. We got 3 people talking at a desk for 10 minutes about time. Didn't work. It's just the actual ending of like him fighting Sylvie, dope. But that was all we got in the finale. Like that sucked. Like it totally ruined the momentum they had built up.
Could have
You
been a
know?
better introduction of Jonathan Majors into the MCU. They
Yeah.
could have done a lot better.
Yeah. Could have been a lot better. But still, the lead up into that was fantastic.
Yeah.
And it was appointment viewing, so definitely number 4 for me.
Okay. Okay. So then I'll go with number 3. Mine was Loki. Hiddleston was phenomenal. I think we mentioned this in last episode. Just how he translates his emotion to you through his eyes when he's watching his life basically just run through its course from beginning to the end on tape essentially. Just Hiddleston was perfect there. The dynamic of him and what is I'm sorry, I forget my name. Um,
Sylvie?
Forget her name. Sylvie, the actress that plays Sylvie. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yeah, can't remember her name.
Okay, but
I
anyway,
should.
she was phenomenal. I think it's we mentioned this during the show. If there was any character that was so egotistical, the only love they would ever know would be loving themselves from a different reality would be the character Loki, and they both execute that very, very well. I do agree. Immortus wasn't a big fan of the way that things transpired, but I think the problem with that is they had already started laying down the foundation through promotional material for Spider-Man and for Doctor Strange that the multiverse is real. So I think they kind of just wanted to just get it over with. Hey, let's just bring in Immortus slash Kang. Let's get it over with. Let's do it here, do it now. But it didn't seem as it just didn't feel as important. But overall, great show. So yeah, Loki's my number 3.
Okay. My number 3, sticking with Marvel, my last one on the list.
Okay.
That is one we just talked about extensively on episode 32, one that just had its most recent finale, Hawkeye. Consistent start to finish. I'm sure you're going to echo some of my points, as I believe this is going to show up in your top 2. Great character dynamics. Haley Steinfeld, you could not have cast a better cast. Like, perfect. Like, nailed it. Like, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, Downey as Iron Man, like, just perfect. Plus, bringing in Yelena from Black Widow, their chemistry off the charts. Like, instantly you want more of them every single episode, which is what you want in like an ensemble show like that, with two main leads but a lot of characters bouncing around. Couple mixed bags that stop it from being, an all timer for me. Echo, like I'm still like, I don't know if I even want to watch your show. You know, like cool character on paper. The actress did a great job, but it was just like the role she had in the show. I don't care about her redemptive arc to becoming a hero. And again, it's just a function of we didn't have enough time with her. All of the Marvel shows could have used at least one more episode focused exclusively on the secondary characters that either come out to be the bad guy, like Sharon in Falcon and Winter Soldier. We needed
Yeah,
a flashback episode with her 5 years into the past, going forward and explaining how she became a bad guy. Because where we
yeah,
left
we
her,
needed.
no, that was
Yeah,
not the case.
yeah. Like, and you could have skipped like you could have added an episode before the finale and showed how we
Like
got to
after
her
the
becoming
reveal, and then
the
you
power
do the
broker,
flashback episode that's just with her.
the power broker, how she became to be the power
Would have
broker,
been
and
perfect.
if
And
Valentina Allegra does play some role in that,
yeah,
like we need that. Yeah,
yeah, like that's missing a part of the story. And Hawkeye, the stuff with Echo and like her training and like like how good is she really? And she like maybe had super strength kicks weirdly, like her relationship with Kingpin. Like after the reveal of Kingpin, a flashback episode of that timeline, showing her, arc after her father dies.
yeah,
And then you have it then you ended of course with her realizing, yeah, I was set up and he's got to die, and she goes to kill him, right? Like that would have sold me so much more on her character. Instead I just left feeling, I mean, I guess that's there, more or less is my feeling on her. So we'll see if they're able to bring me in. Of course, if they bring in Charlie Cox as Daredevil, I'm in.
yeah, yeah,
But that feels like ragging too much on this show because top to bottom is the most consistent MCU show. Clint Barton's like tying off buttoning off his arc, post Avengers. Fantastic work. The trick arrow stuff, great. We needed a boomerang arrow though.
we
That
did.
was one of the greatest moments in that Matt Fraction run when the boomerang arrow comes back and he catches it.
Yeah.
Boomerang arrow. We didn't get it. Ah, that burned me just a little bit. So that's why it's that number 3, not number 2. Fusion, we're over to you.
Okay, so I'm at 3. Is
You're
that
at
what? Oh,
2.
I'm at 2. I'm at 2. Okay. Number 2 for me is Hawkeye. So my number 1 is gonna be different than yours.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
um,
I already know what it is.
you know what mine is. So the thing that gets me about Hawkeye is that I think I agree with you in that I was expecting more from uh, um Echo. I was expecting more from her, but unfortunately, we have a disabled slash deaf character. So I don't know what I was thinking. Like we really can't expound too much unless we just the flashback really would have helped. But what I think is that I didn't realize how much I was going to be engulfed into Yelena Belova's character. Like
Yeah, as soon
I,
as
I
she
just
shows up, the show's different.
it's different, but like she just she had personality in Black Widow, and that movie wasn't bad. It was 4 or 5 years too late, right? Um, but Florence Pugh she plays the character well, just kind of this snarky assassin, right? But she's even much more like she's better at it than even Clint Barton's character, right? She's much better at it because she's just like like the scene when they're in her apartment and she made the macaroni. She's like, "Look, I promise I won't kill you. I don't even have a weapon on me." Okay, that's a lie. I don't have a weapon on me, but I don't have one on my hands. And then she looks at her ring. She's like, I'm lying again. And then just kind of just sits down and let's eat macaroni after that. It just like the dynamic between those two is great. Haley Steinfeld, I will tell you this: when they announced they were going to bring Kate Bishop into the MCU, Feige said that Steinfeld was his person. Like this was her role at the moment they announced they were bringing the character into the MCU. Is like it is Haley Steinfeld and no one else. So when she like basically reached out and says, "Hey, yeah, I heard I'd like to do that." They're like, "This role is yours. Like this was designed for you. And we all knew that the moment they were going to do this show, that was like, okay, it's going to be her. Just like years ago, we all thought if they're going to do an Iron Man movie, it's got to be Robert Downey Jr., right? We all knew that he is Tony Stark. um I wanted a little bit more. 10 episodes would have been great. Throwing in some backstory for Echo,
Yeah.
throwing a backstory with the mom and Kingpin. Like you could have, those are 2 episodes right there that would have got you even closer
Yeah,
to
like
10.
how is
And
she actually his niece?
yeah,
Is it
exactly.
Kingpin's sister
Yep. Or is it just one of
or
those
adoptive
quasi
sister? Because we know he
adopted sister?
like
Yeah.
what is the relationship there?
I think their fear was if we go too much into that, we reveal too much about how he is not the Netflix
Yeah, and then it
Kingpin.
becomes a this is not about Hawkeye show.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And I understand that, but I think we did need an episode where a lot of it was a flashback of Echo, and then you can always jump back into the present with Clint and Kate and stuff, and just kind of carry the story along. But um, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Great show. Can't wait for there needs to be a season 2 of
If
Hawkeye.
there's
There
not,
does.
we riot.
Yeah.
Period. So we're up to my number 2.
Yep.
By the way, spoiler alert, I'm pretty sure number 1 on Fusion's list is Invincible. Am I right?
I like how he's calling it. Yes, it's Invincible.
Good, because it's
Yes.
my number 2.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why I wanted to go there. Like we called back about, Young Justice, like it's an animated show, but it's told like straight up like the graphic novel. And of
Yes.
course, in this case, Robert Kirkman, the creator, of the original run, or just the entirety of the run, is back helping to write the show. Much like on the Expanse, one of my favorite TV shows, which is I'm gonna spoil it. It's my honorable mention for season 6. The writers of the books are helping to write the show, and Kirkman has been very upfront about how the Invincible run, at least in season 1, has been so much better than even his work on The Walking Dead because he's in like more control.
Yeah.
Like it's his show, and he's using it as a way to say, "Oh, I could have tightened that up. When I was a young man, I was maybe off kilter about like what I wanted out of this arc. I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna move pieces around." And he's being able to play with his own sandbox and retell the story, but in a more concise, like to fit TV run. And I love it. Like the characters are great. Some of the voice cast, like it took me a while to kind of get over like the guy that Jason Mantzoukas, is that his name? Rexplosion.
Oh yeah.
Like it took Rexplode. It took me a while to get past his voice because he's very in your face. Like as an
Yeah.
actor, he is
Yeah.
all in. He's all in all the time. Like and
He's
that
great
never.
at he's great in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He
Yeah,
is hilarious in that
exactly. It's
show.
Pimento. He's fantastic,
Pimento.
right? And he's great in The Good Place as Derek, right?
Mm.
Like great in comedies. But it took me a while to get past him and see the character. And they had a few other instances of that. But of course, J.K. Simmons is Omni-Man. I mean, my God, we talk about casting. Like that dude's voice is perfect for Omni-Man. He
Yes,
can
he is.
do that heroic, voice, but man, he's got that dark edge to just flip that switch, shit's going down. It's just rage. Love it. Love it. And that turn in episode 1 at the end, like nobody like regular fans wouldn't have seen it coming. It's one of those holy fuck moments that you will forever remember watching and or reading if you read the original run. Absolutely perfect.
That event takes place a little farther into the comic, so
Yes.
you knew it was going to happen at some point. You just didn't know it was going to happen at the end of the first episode. And when you're watching, you're just like, it's like everyone's reaction to the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones. You're
Exactly.
just like, holy fuck, because people knew about the Red Wedding in the books. We just didn't know it was going to happen right then and there.
Yeah.
And
It's one of those moments where like once you see the setup, you know what's coming and you're like
yeah,
and it's just you're just watching in awe. And like that's so much of what Invincible was for season 1 was just like watching in awe at what they did with an animated show of like traditional animation. Like and I have another animated show as my number 1, but it's animated very differently. This was what you think of when you see a cartoon in your head as a Western audience. You see something like Invincible in terms of the look and what they were able to do with that and tell such a just I don't want to say dark. I really like maybe violent, like maybe like like consequential, maybe like consequential
Yeah,
violence. You know, like it's not like gore just for gore all the
yeah,
time, at least, but it's
yeah.
violent. You know, like that life would be pretty damn violent. You know, and like where they're able to take that medium and marry that story, it's perfect, and I loved it.
Okay. So my number one, guys, is Invincible. Well, so much of what we just said. Obviously, the other thing is that this is important because we don't we always forget the dynamic about when they tell these stories about superpowers, that there aren't consequences, that they aren't dangerous. I think the one thing I appreciated about Snyder's Man of Steel was it showed that he is indestructible on this planet, and there are consequences where he can hurt other people by defending them. Just by defending them, he puts them in danger. And The Boys does that very well. They show that, hey, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Like what we do can really be gory because we have power to just destroy with the snap of our fingers. They show that here. Like you said, it's not there's not an overabundance of it, but it hits where it's important. It's not like the 80s, like movies like heavy metal where it's just like violence upon violence upon violence, right? But then you look at the cast, man. Seth Rogen playing Alan the Alien. We get
Perfect.
John Hamm. I mean, Zachary Quinto's in there as the robot. It's just Gillian Jacobs. She's the lead female as Adam Eve. It's like, and yes, J.K. Simmons is probably as Omni Man the best voice casting I have seen in a long, long time because he is perfect for that role. Perfect for that
I
role.
want to forget
And it,
Walton Goggins.
Walton Goggins. Okay, yeah.
Fuck yeah. As
And Steve,
he's the head of the government agency guy.
yes, Cecil
Cecil.
Stedman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him as Cecil.
Um,
Fuck yeah.
but they tell a great story. It's the comics are very weird. It gets weird as it gets older, and I'm hoping that we do get to tell the entire arc of Invincible, and I think they will just because of the response, the reception to the show. But you're right, man. Kirkman was able to really let his flag fly in terms of like artistically, as opposed to AMC. And I know that AMC they do a lot to take control of these productions, and I know the history behind Walking Dead. The first season was phenomenal. But then after that, the studio really jumped in and he hated the process and he quit in the middle of season two. Comes back a couple years later, but by that point, I had checked out because
And they
it
fucked
just
over Frank
they
Darabont too.
yeah yeah it just Darabont and Kirkman had stepped away from it and then they come back and it was just a mess. And by that point, I had checked out. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen anything since
I haven't
season
seen anything since
three.
Shane left.
Yeah, it was just frustrating. But to see him to be able to say, like you said, tighten things up. Well, we're getting a much tighter story for Invincible, and there are some really hard stories to tell. And I'll go ahead and just talk about it. There is one involving sexual assault,
Yeah, it's pretty graphic.
rape. It's very the comic itself tried to keep it as
Yeah, like they
toned as
graphic,
possible,
I
but
should say, in like by implication,
just implications. Yes,
maybe is the better way.
we're
Like
gonna.
it's
I mean,
heavy.
it's an
Heavy is a better
important.
way to put it.
Yeah, it's so important that it has to be told. When you compare it to the boys, is Herogasm important? No, but do we want to see it? Maybe. I don't know. I'm gonna
I
regret
want to see it
saying
with an
that.
Eric Kripke. Because
Okay,
Eric Kripke is
I'm
much like in the James Gunn level. Like they're of a similar mind.
gonna make it stupid. Like, and that's they're gonna execute how dumb it is, and that's fine.
Well, they had a
Um,
Mr. Fantastic guy given like hand jobs in the
hand jobs.
first
I know.
first season.
I mean,
Like
at the
that's
ending of the season.
Kripke knows how to tell this universe, and I
I mean, which is
fucking
it's
love it.
funny, yeah, because you have Homelander jerking off at the top of
Yeah, which they
the
shot for
world.
season one, and they're just like, fuck it, throw in the finale. Like,
Don't know finale. So I'm really. This was my favorite show this year, and I've watched it several times. Gone back and watched it just because it's so good. And the story is so well written, and it was one of my favorite comics that was not a direct DC, direct Marvel property. And I loved, I enjoyed The Walking Dead, the first 100 issues. 100 Bullets, Why the Last Man. So this was one of those stories. It's like, okay, I like the story they're telling, and it's a lot darker, it's a little more violent. Which, okay, well, and it's all like I said, it's not all sunshine and rainbows in the hero world. This was number one for me, man. I know it was your number 2, but for me, it was number 1.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see what your number 1 was.
Okay. Before we get there, I want to let the audience know that's watching. Go ahead and drop your favorite shows of the year in chat. Let us know. Um, for me, Invincible, like you talked about that era of comics.
Yep.
Sony needs to crawl and beg Netflix. We need a Powers show
Yeah, we do. Oh man.
and make it animated. Don't try this.
Oh.
Like Sony tried to make their own network on PlayStation Plus and do a Powers adaptation because clearly they have the rights to it.
Mhm.
I don't know for how long that is or if it was a one-time deal. I don't know. Someone has the rights to Powers.
Yeah.
That run from that was that Azzarello or Bendis? That was Bendis, right?
Bendis, Brian Michael Bendis, yes.
That comic fucking floored me. Like, and like, it just somebody make an animated Powers show. It would kill. It would be on that level of what we saw from Invincible. You know, like, is it's such a cool story. Like, it's a cool ass world, right? Like, give us that universe in animated form, and I think you'd have a really awesome property on your hands for like a 3 or 4 season run. Like, I think there's something really cool there, and it blows my mind. No one's done anything like that with Powers. Like of
Yeah.
all the creator individual comics, it's been tried to be adapted a couple times. Nobody's tried to do it as an animated. Again, go back to DCAU. You saw what they did. It won
Mhm.
awards. It's like pop culture like phenomenon. Everybody knows the name Kevin Conroy just from the one fucking show. Like the guy became a huge star and he's been in a bunch of like awesome properties like huge video games and shit because that show was so good. No one's doing that with Powers. That doesn't compute for me. It doesn't work. Somebody needs to fix that is what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I agree. We've talked about this before. If Netflix did an animated Hellboy with Ron Perlman, people would love it.
Are you kidding me? Make it a continuation of the Del Toro universe. Bring him back. Bring the whole cast in. Print the money. Print it.
It's not that hard. It's not. I
You
mean,
can even
there's
just do it
plenty of
6
stories.
episodes. Just do
Yeah.
a 6 episode Hellboy story with the cast. Get Doug Jones over to be Abe Sapien again, and bring Perlman back. That was Doug Jones that did him, right?
Yeah, it was Doug Jones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's doing Discovery. He's not that busy. He'd love to come in and not have to do makeup for fucking
Yeah,
hours on
they
end.
just read lines. Ron Perlman has no problem reading. He likes doing this stuff, man. He's a
Right?
geek.
He
Come on.
would. You kidding me? That he wouldn't come back to do a straight canon continuation from Hellboy 2: A Golden Army, but in animated form? Are you kidding me? Make it happen.
Seed of Destruction was such a good book, but it was also a good movie. Oh
Uh,
man.
yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway,
Okay.
back to my
Yeah.
number
Okay.
one. Back to
Yeah.
my number one, and that
You're
is the
number
most
1.
recent show I've watched to completion beyond Hawkeye. That's Arcane on Netflix.
Okay.
Animation adaptation from League of Legends, Riot Games.
Mhm.
Oh my god. Pick a comparison. Is it maybe the greatest animated show ever? Is it the video game
Oh,
answer to Game of Thrones? It's all of it. It's incredible. It was one of the coolest things I've ever watched in my life. Like the various different characters we see, like the arc structure they go on. Like the first 3 is its own little arc, and then it's 6 episodes that follow. Like the what comes next and the political machinations, the fight sequences, like just the stunningly deep animation. Like holy fuck, the world they built. It's just a city. Like it's not even the world. There's implications of the wider world at play here in the political side of it, but it's just really one city split into 2. The way they show that and the divide between those 2 cities and all the various interplay between like the cops and the politicians and the underground and the divisions even in the underground in an animated show with some of the coolest fucking fight sequences I've ever watched. Like uh and like Vi's character, like, and the fact that it's a video game adaptation that they just said, fuck it, we don't care that it's a 1-to-1. Just make a dope show. And they did. Like, I cannot wait for season 2, and it's gonna take a while. From
yeah.
what they said, the animation is akin to like Into the Spider-Verse in terms of time. Like it is a very time intensive thing to animate. And it took them a long time to get their process down. Like apparently they retooled this thing like 3 or 4 times. They've had the story for a while. It just took them a while to find their look, like what they wanted.
Yeah.
And they said season 2 will be far shorter because the process is locked in. Like we know how to do the thing now, you know. And like I'm sure we'll see something about how like maybe they like made new technology or something about how to animate it, like how they did it. You know how Spider-Man's whole thing was it's animated on the twos, you know,
Yeah.
got that kind of framey look to it. This isn't quite that. It's close, but it's not quite that. Um, everything's just I can't even describe it because I'm not a guy that's into like really into animation like that. But it's very unique and in a way that I don't think anyone else is going to want to try to duplicate because it apparently takes for fucking ever. So I'm very excited to see where they go with season 2 because they left off with one hell of a bang, and I can't wait to see what happens. So it's definitely by far my number one. And Jerron in our chat is right. Every frame was a painting. Period. In the best way. Every page looked like the dopest concept art come to life.
You're not my first friend that has said they were blown away by Arcane.
It's
Like
that good. Like
yeah, I
I
have
knew
friends that don't even care about League of Legends, and they were like, I didn't realize how much I enjoyed this until I
yeah,
sat down and oh my
I
god.
played League of Legends twice. Don't give two shits about it. And all my friends that again similar we run in similar circles on like online. All of
Yeah.
them are like, dude, this shit's awesome. This shit's best show of the year. I was like, okay, is it really that good? Or it's in a weird year. There's not been really that much great like top 10. No, there's no flaws to it shows, right? Like, you know, even like Mandalorian season 2 had the bugs episode, like with the spiders.
Oh,
Like, you know, like there every show's got the flaw.
sure.
This did not. This was perfect from the word go. Cannot wait to see where they go next. Like for
Wow.
real, animated properties, top animated movie ever, probably Spider Verse. Though there's a lot of them in the running for Pixar, right?
Yeah.
This is on that level for 9 episodes. I think
Wow.
it's 9, might be 8, but like it is dense and beautiful and just intricate. Is like maybe the best description of this show in every facet. The story, the animation, the fight sequencing, the choreography, like the foreground, like the shot creation, cinematography. It's just intricate. Like it's beautiful. I loved it. And I can't stop raving about it.
All right, man. Making me have to go watch it now. All right.
It's a real easy binge too. Like you're gonna just power through it in a weekend. Like make that this if you're gonna watch a show, I want you to watch Young Justice. Don't get me wrong. Like
Yeah.
it's a show I know you're gonna dig because you love that world.
Yeah.
Arcane, as of course, a shorter binge because there's way less. Like there's only the one season, and it's more current. Watch that first.
Okay.
Definitely
Yeah, so 2023 is when you can expect Arcane season
for sure.
2.
They've been like don't expect it in 22. Like
Yeah.
no. This
I appreciate when they're realistic about production
I
windows. So
appreciate that they're better on their animators than their gaming company they're adapting from.
Riot Games they have a lot to work on. Yeah,
Didn't
I
they
agree.
just have $100 million settlement for being fucking dicks?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so chat, what do you got? Before we move on to movies, chat, what do you have? I'm sure the J Bros are probably going to have Arcane on their list because they're talking about how awesome it is as well.
Yep.
So, Chris, what do you got for shows? I know you're here. I don't know if Rhoda's still here, if he's passed out drunk, which he should definitely go pass out because he's been awake for like 29 hours.
Yeesh.
Medical system has some great stuff.
Yeah.
What they do to like interns and residents is dog shit. Like, good God. That sucks.
I think people are a little shy to give
Ooh,
their
Chris hasn't watched anything. Well, if nothing else, Chris, use this as a guide for what to watch.
yeah. I will tell you, man. I think Warburg and I are in agreement here. Invincible is a show that will really just catch you by surprise because it is just so well written. The cast are wonderful in it, and it's a great story. Yeah, I recommend. I definitely recommend Invincible. It's worth watching. But Arcane's, I've been hearing more and more from people that aren't even really big fans of anything, of that type of genre, have told me, yeah, I watched Arcane. That thing was unbelievable. That show was unbelievable. So
Yes.
I have to sit down and watch it, man.
You definitely do. Okay,
All right, let's jump over to movies
let's jump
so
to
we get that.
movies. Since you went first last time, I'll go first this time.
You go first. Yes.
And this to
Oh,
me
hold
was
on. We didn't even do our honorable mentions.
oh, I
What was
did.
your
I said
honorable
mine was
mention?
The Expanse.
Okay, so mine was Superman and Lois. Better
Ooh,
production
good pull.
value. That move that over to HBO Max permanently. I think that'll be a great show. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the show that makes me go, yeah, they need to make DC live action shows on HBO.
yeah,
CW is great, like for cheap production, but like it's DC. You wanna put some flagship properties. Get that shit on HBO.
yep. I agree.
Watchmen killed. Figure it out.
All
Okay,
right, to movies. You
movies
go
time.
first.
This is the movie that got me back to the movies. Like the first one, I went with Joey. We saw it in Algona, which is the closest theater to me, the not so nice one. The most stunned silence I've ever been in a theater for the entirety of the run, and that is A Quiet Place, the first one. The sequel, I went and saw A Quiet Place Part 2. So it got me back to the theaters this year, going back to movies in person. We went and saw it, because this was after we got vaccines. So I
Yeah,
was more comfortable, wore a mask. Again, just absolutely what an insanely perfect concept for a movie and only a movie. This could not be a show. This couldn't be a book, really. Like you could maybe do it as a book, not as a graphic novel for sure, because there's the visual component and you're missing that audio. Book can make it work because your imagination fills in the gaps for the visuals and the audio. But for a movie to not have sound, and like that's not an entirely original concept. Like the pianist from a few years ago, the artist
yeah, yeah.
that won like Best Picture, right? Like not entirely original, but in the horror genre, like sound is an integral part of a horror movie. But this flips it and says the lack of it is the horror. Beautiful, like just one of those moments where when it clicks in your brain what they're doing, it just it's just stunning to watch. Like you just sit there, you're white knuckling the whole time without being like truly freaked out. Like there's no, like outright like violence, like a gore that makes you want to like vomit or anything. It's not Saw, like that kind of movie. It's just tension, and it just constantly, slowly turns that ratchet one more notch, and one more notch, and one more notch, all with just stunned silence. It's an undescribable movie going experience, unlike anything else on my list. Loved that movie.
What? It's not Mortal Kombat, the movie about a tournament that didn't
A
have a
movie
freaking tournament in it. In it.
again, much like The Matrix. That 7 minute opening was dope, and then they just
Like, what are we doing here? Like, where's the tournament?
let's. There's no tournament and no ninjas.
Yeah.
Fuck.
All right, so my number 5. Gonna kind of catch you off by surprise because I was very surprised going back and I rewatched it recently and I did not realize I enjoyed it as much. Free Guy.
Ah,
Free Free
good.
Guy was a really good
That's what The
movie.
Matrix should have been. Matrix
Yes.
4.
Yes.
Though my
Ex-
my take is actually the Lego movie is a better Matrix movie than Matrix Resurrections.
uh, okay,
But Free
that's
Guy
fair.
was dope. I love that movie. Continue.
Free Guy was great. Ryan Reynolds is hilarious. Here's the thing: they did reshoots late last year, and obviously they tied in because of being purchased. Fox's properties being purchased by Marvel. I mean, by Disney. They tied in some more of the Disney elements to it, which is fine. They didn't overly do it, but yeah, I thought it was a great story. Being a big gamer, Taika Waititi is just hilarious in this. So yeah, I really enjoyed Free Guy. It's my number 5, just because I had fun. I didn't think I was gonna have as much fun as I did. I didn't think I was gonna really buy into this story because it's a character that technically doesn't exist on any level outside of a video game world. Okay, but you found yourself being kind of pulled into the character because Ryan Reynolds is a good actor. So yeah, that's my number 5 is Free Guy.
Good pull. That's a good pull. I certainly enjoyed that movie. And like that was the thing where again, fan servicey, schlocky marketing stuff can work into a movie if it serves a story.
Yep.
That's fine. Like and Free Guy understood that.
Yep.
Like having Chris Evans come in and like when he pops on the shield with his what the and like they cut the swear, like oh that's a good joke, right? Like it just works both as a cool action moment and a joke.
Yeah.
Whereas Matrix Resurrections was like setting up for jokes, but that weren't really a joke.
Yeah.
Like, like that kind of thing. And Free Guy works great as that. And it was definitely one of those movies where it blew away my expectations.
Yeah,
Like,
I thought it was gonna be one of those where on Rotten Tomatoes it's gonna be like a 40 or something, and I was like,
yeah, like
this."
middling, but with a good Ryan Reynolds performance.
Yeah,
Also,
but
didn't
in
know
watching
Channing
it,
Tatum was in the movie, and he was hilarious. Like, the Channing Tatum just kind of fell off the map. And now he's got a movie with Sandra Bullock coming out this year that looks fucking hilarious. That, like, Lost Island or whatever.
oh yeah,
It looks so dumb, but so perfectly a Channing Tatum comedy. And Sandra Bullock in it. She's hilarious in comedies. Perfect. Can't wait for it. Okay, my number 4. Back to the comic book realm. That'd be The Suicide Squad.
okay,
Again, that movie didn't have any major expectations for it. The first one sucked ass. But then they're making a sequel because it made a lot of money. Of course they are. Oh, who are they getting to direct it? James Gunn. Okay, you got me. Some of the same players are back. Viola Davis as Amanda Waller. That was Viola Davis, wasn't it?
yeah,
As Amanda Waller. I'm not super sold on Joel Kinnaman, but okay, he's back as Rick Flag. Harley Quinn, of course, Margot Robbie. She's awesome. She's back. Okay, it's James Gunn, but oh, John Cena's going to be in this. Okay. John Cena, great at doing comedy. James Gunn, great at doing comedy direction. Plus, you throw in Idris Elba as your main character that you know is going to bring the heart. I was cautiously excited because that cast was pretty damn solid with the director behind it. Absolutely met my expectations of just being a damn fun time at the movies. Like, they nailed Starro the Conqueror. Of all the villains that they could pull, of course it's James Gunn that pulls Starro out of his ass and makes it perfect to the comics. And that it functions within the story as their, the obstacle to overcome. Just perfect. Perfect. Plus, it was Peter Capaldi as, the thinker. Again,
yeah.
what a great pull and casting, coming off Doctor Who. Just awesome as that character. And the fact that they let loose, no, this shit's rated R, and in the best James Gunn way, awesome. If they would have just not called it The Suicide Squad, for the love of God, just tell the audience it's a sequel,
yeah. They did their best to
or
make
just
sure that
call it
this
Task
wasn't
Force
a sequel.
X.
Yeah, yeah,
Like the other names in the subtitle of the the group's name, like their history, they've been Task Force X for years. Just call the movie that. Clearly, the fuckery that was the first one fucked with this one doing well at the box office.
yeah.
Clearly, because that one had left a really bad taste in people's mouths.
Well, to be fair, that movie was going to be a lot darker until Deadpool came out, and then they felt like they had to do rated R comedy. Like
Yeah.
they had to add more comedic elements to that movie, which made it even weirder than it was.
Yeah.
It just was a weird movie.
Oh, and
You're
by the way,
overlook.
it was a comic book movie that didn't have them fight a giant ray beam in the sky.
Yeah,
Kudos. Instead, they fight a giant starfish with a spear, and it's awesome. Loved it.
you're overlooking Sylvester Stallone as King Shark.
Oh,
Come on,
I didn't
man.
even bring up King Shark has had a moment. Okay,
Yeah,
between Harley Quinn, Ron Funches, between Justice League Dark Apocalypse War and his basically being I am Groot. Awesome. Then this movie, Sylvester Stallone, James Gunn's a genius. Like,
yeah,
give that man all the money to make whatever project you want. That dude kills it. And Margot Robbie doing the key scene actually is her doing the key scene. So James Gunn, when she breaks out of the prison and
yeah.
knocks the dude out and grabs the key with her foot and unlocks herself, did it in one take. Gunn apparently was stunned watching it, didn't realize the ribbon was covering her face. He's like, no one's gonna buy that's her. No one is. I can't believe I fucked that up. But he's like, yeah, we had to keep the take because it was perfect, and we were never gonna do it again. And so he just had to come out and all the talk shows and was like, that's what happened, and that's what happens when you don't pay attention in your monitors.
Well, and he made Peacemaker an interesting John Cena and Peacemaker an interesting character, and we didn't know this that they were filming a piece like we didn't know that we were both like, okay, they have to do a Peacemaker show. Oh, it's already in the can. We're
Yeah,
gonna
they
it's gonna come
finished it.
out.
It's fucking
Like
done.
like as soon as they wrapped production on this movie, they were like, we have to do this show now, and they did, and no one knew about it. No one knew about it. So when they announced, oh yeah, it's coming out in January, we're all like, the hell? Like really? Like we're okay? Like you spent 6 months on? Nope, we just spent a few months after wrapping on the movie and we did the show. Alrighty then. Okay, but hey man, I the intro scene where Task Force X everybody dies. Oh my god, it's just there's just so many
So
elements in the movie.
so funny. Like TDK, like when he
Yeah.
gets like when his arm limbs are getting shot and he's freaking out in the background. Perfect cinematography. Perfect. No other words
And
for it.
this I will say, the Suicide Squad was my honorable mention. So it's not in my list. It just was short. I'm gonna go with number 4 here. My
Okay.
number 4, this is one that's not on your list, I know for a fact. It's The Many Saints of Newark, the Sopranos movie.
Ooh.
Um a lot of people had a lot of bad things to say about this movie. I will tell you what it does. It connects the past of the mob to what you see in The Sopranos. It gets you there. Now, the one thing I will say about this movie, it wasn't a film. It deserved being on HBO Max. It's not a film that deserved to be in the theaters. This was essentially a really long episode of The Sopranos, like a season, a flashback season, right? For 2.5 hours. This was really good though because it defined Tony Soprano's path to where he is on the show, but it's 30 years, 20 some odd years before the Sopranos takes place, but it fills a lot of holes and it actually creates a lot of what's the right word for this? It basically exposes a lot of things that you thought were these preconceived ideas of characters you never meet, you hear about throughout the entire show, the history of of Newark and the mob out there and the family. You learn that not all of it's true, and you learn a lot of it is a lie, and you learn that some of the characters you've watched throughout your entire run of the Sopranos aren't who you really think they are, and that's what I really liked about this show. Great cast, unbelievable cast. Um, I really think that this could have been a mini series on HBO Max, and that would have revived The Sopranos, like the whole IP. But I really enjoyed the show. Many Saints of Newark was a great. That's my number 4 movie. A lot of people didn't like it. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So my number 3. This is where I think we're gonna start to get at least really similar together.
Yeah, I think we're gonna be 3 for 3 here.
It
I think
might
so.
we might have a slightly different order, but it's gonna
Okay.
be the same 3 movies, I think.
Yeah.
And only because it's part 1. My 3 is Dune
Okay.
because it's not a complete story.
Okay.
So I may look back at this and I end up ranking it higher when part 2 comes out and nails the landing because of course it will. But it's the setup for where they're gonna go. It is the original archetype for this type of show, right? Like this story, right? Like the Game of Thrones would not exist without like this, like the book that he wrote, Dune. Like it defined like again a lot of that like backroom like political stuff. Like that's all like straight out of the book, right?
Yeah.
Like all like different houses and all that stuff. And of course it's in space and all this, but it takes that structure, moves it into a sci-fi world, and it does it beautifully. Like I use that word a lot, but again, like Denis Villeneuve, like his movies are just stunning. Like just they are pictures in like that old school Hollywood way of using that word. He is that director. Like his Blade Runner 2049 and Arrival are two of the best movies I have watched, period. Both of the twists in those movies, when the twist happens, jaw's on the floor. Like disconnect
Yeah.
the jaw, it's on the floor. Right? Like so good. And he does such a good job of setting you up and swerving. Whereas Dune is a part 1, so there's really not a swerve. It's paint by numbers, but with a great story. Like you can do a paint by numbers, like someone's gonna betray, and we know like all these things are gonna happen because that's the type of story this is. But do it well, no one cares, and Dune does it well. I can't wait to see where they go with part 2, and that's the only reason it's not higher is because it's a part 1. So that's where I'm
Okay.
at on Dune.
Okay. My number 3 is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Oh, we're gonna have some different stuff then.
Okay, then okay. All right. I thought this would be up there for you, but never mind.
No,
Um
I was not a fan of its finale.
Yeah, I know you weren't a
I
fan
wanted
of
a
the
Kung Fu
finale, but
finale, not a Dragon Ball finale.
but I enjoyed this movie, man. If you go back and watch it a sec,
Oh,
have
don't
you
get me
watched it a
wrong.
second time?
It's not a bad movie.
Okay.
It's just not
Have you
top 5
watched?
for me.
Have you watched it again?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, okay, that's fair. Um, I really enjoyed this movie. I know I agreed with you having a problem with the final battle becoming a dragon battle, which happened out of nowhere. Um, but when I went back and watched it, for me the biggest thing was the characters, like Trevor Slattery's character, Yin Yan, all those people, even Razor Fist to a degree. Like you saw that final battle just felt I came in with a different, like a fresh perspective, and I enjoyed it more the second time. And I will tell you, the fights, the choreography, the fight choreography of this movie, top notch, top notch. Um, yeah, I the mythos, they did a little tweaking from the comic book character for obvious reasons, not to upset people. Um, man, I just, this was a good introduction of a new character, showing some diversity into the MCU, which I really enjoy. I know Black Panther broke a lot of ground, which I was very happy with the reception, um, with Black Panther, and from what I could tell, fans really like, culturally, fans really accepted this character and really
Yeah.
embraced it, and they're very happy with entering this character into the MCU and as an Avenger. And I'm happy to see that, and where they go next. I'm very interested. But I think this was a good movie. I know you were just you are standing on the fact that final battle really hit you
For
in a
me, it
negative
was
way.
just very much against the other themes that they were playing with. Again, maybe those are the themes that just hit me.
Yeah,
How does the theme about, big, like wrestling with family turn into a dragon battle?
yeah,
Like that
that's
just made there's no connection there.
Yeah, and for me, watching it the second time, it was the fact that his dad was, with those rings, was virtually indestructible. So it made sense that a very imposing force would have to really right that ship with his dad. And so then I can understand why we had dragons fighting and
I just think
giant
the
monsters.
better finale would have been him facing off with his dad and winning.
That would have been,
That would have been the better finale.
it would have been more organic. It would have felt better. And then
And
you
then you
bring
leave the
dragons
fight
in
to
the
be
future.
between his dad's forces and the
Yeah,
village. And then you
and that,
leave the dragon as a teased villain for the future. So
yeah,
we actually get to know the dragon as a personality and a character, and we actually care when it happens. You know? Like
yeah.
that's
So
I don't want to dig on it. It's not a bad movie.
no, no, no,
It was a
no,
very
no,
good
no.
movie. It's just not top 5 for me.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. So it's my number three is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Okay. So now I think we're getting into the part where we're going to be 1-1. I think. My number 2 is Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Okay.
Were you not there?
No.
Wow.
Number two for me was Dune. Not gonna lie.
Oh, so it's Dune and Spider-Man.
Yep, Dune and
Okay, so
Spider-Man.
so where's Ghostbusters for you? Not even on the
Uh,
list?
it was close to my honorable mention.
Okay.
I
Okay.
I I really really enjoyed Ghostbusters Afterlife, but my biggest problem was um I felt like it was a little too late. That's really it. Yeah.
Well, I mean that's part of why it works too. Is
Yeah,
because it is.
yeah, yeah. It's a letter to Harold Ramis, which at the same time was very emotional for me. But
Like the
um,
emotional impact of him, the finale would
yeah,
not have hit if he was still alive.
yeah, I know, and I get that. But like for me, I really think about when I look at this list, and then I have to really say that there was some. And I will tell you, I'll be honest with you. I really fought with the Many Saints of Newark being at number four, and number four also being Ghostbusters Afterlife. I will tell you that. And
Okay.
when I really thought about the movies that I enjoyed, really, really enjoyed, I a lot of people didn't enjoy it. I did. I really, really enjoyed the Many Saints of Newark. But Ghostbusters Afterlife, that has to be that's a very close honorable mention. Suicide Squad was what I listed as my honorable mention, but Ghostbusters Afterlife was definitely in there in that list as
Yep.
well. It was very hard. It was a
And
really tough list for me,
and I
honestly.
think part of that is, like again the theme with family. Like I went and saw that movie with my dad.
Okay.
Like
I went
first
by myself, so yeah, I
first
get
movie I'd taken him to since I think Rogue One, which he did
Okay.
not like. I can't believe my dad does not like Rogue One. Like, come on.
Such a
Are you
good movie,
kidding me?
man.
You got me into Star Wars and you don't like Rogue fucking One? Crazy, man. But we both were like, that was an incredible movie. That was an incredible experience. We went home. We were going home talking about watching Ghostbusters and that first movie, and then coming back and circling about what we loved about Afterlife. And, like that is something that is not one to one, person to person. Like everyone's interaction with the movie, the experience of watching it in the theater or at home with streaming, and like how those themes of the movie can hit different people, or why movies are awesome, why art is awesome in
Yeah.
general, let alone specifically movies. Um, and for me, it was just an experience that was like, that has to be in my top five because it was a top five going to the movie experience, and it's a damn good movie. So,
I'm gonna say, you're not making it easy for me because I will, like I said, I did really fight with myself over Ghostbusters Afterlife because I
am I
really
talking you
enjoyed
into
it.
it?
No, you're talking about if I have to say like, man, if I gotta pull Saints of Newark off and put Ghostbusters Afterlife on there, I have no problem doing that because I really enjoyed it. And like the difference was you went with your dad, I went by myself, but I quite frankly, it was an emotional experience for me because as a kid, I loved Harold Ramis. I was a big fan of his growing up. I really was upset when he passed away just because I never, I had always hoped we would get closure with whatever conflict he had with Bill Murray. Obviously, it stemmed around Groundhog Day. I don't know what happened there, but obviously those two had creative differences. But all that aside, I know in his last days they rectified they repaired their relationship, but we had never got to see that third Ghostbusters film, and I knew where they were going to head with this movie, but I still wasn't prepared for the emotional reaction I would have. So, you know what, man? It's on my list now. I can't put it at number two because
Oh, I'll,
Dune
I'll
was
put it in your
incredible.
honorable mentions.
No, no, no. It can be at number four. It goes back to number four because it was a good movie. And you're right. I thought about the Many Saints of Newark just because I have this attachment from a historical standpoint of the Sopranos because and maybe I'm giving them a little too much credit because of that because I think the Sopranos were a pivotal show in American TV history because TV was centered on network and then the Sopranos came along and showed that without those restraints you could tell an amazing story and then I got more of it which I really wanted, right? Um but at the same time Ghostbusters is a story that I loved that I got more of, but I also got closure in terms of like emotionally on the background of it. So I I have no problem with Ghostbusters being number two on your list, man. I want it on my list. So yeah, and I'll put it out. Many Things to Newark, you're off of number four, and Ghostbusters is back on. You're back on, guys. But
Okay.
Dune is number two for me, man,
All right.
because
So talk me through
yeah,
Dune.
the one word I can describe is visceral. That's what the book is. The 80s TV show, the 2000s sci-fi show, they could not really tell you how the book felt. I don't know why, because it's not very hard. It's a very simple story. The politics of it are very complex. Creating the mythos is complex, but the story itself isn't. And I got that from this movie. The Harkonnens, oh my, they're exactly how I always imagined them in the book. And I think the thing is that I forget her name. She was also in Mission Impossible. She plays Paul's mom
Rebecca
in this movie.
Ferguson.
Rebecca Ferguson. I love her, man. There's just something about her personality. Like she just exudes this essence of like she's able to nurture, but she's also able to be this assassin if she has to be. And so I really liked how they carried the story. The score unbelievable, the aesthetic cinematography, the everything about it was perfect. Like you said, we have more story to tell. I expected what happened, I knew it was going to happen. And so I wasn't like, "Oh my god, I don't lose points for it because it's unfinished product. It gave me what I've always clamored for with Dune, and Denis Villeneuve really stuck the landing with this first attempt here. So he's got me, man. He could turn this instead of being two movies into three films, and I'm gonna buy into it, man. I really am. And yeah, this was the Dune story I had been waiting for since I was a kid. Reading the book as a kid, I've So excited to see this. Was not disappointed. It exceeded my expectations.
Fair play indeed. So we're up to the number ones, which we
Yes.
both, I believe, this I'm staking my podcasting career on. It's the same one.
Yeah.
Spider-Man: No Way
Maybe.
Home.
Actually, mine's gonna be Space Jam. Sorry. Hate to break. It's Space Jam with LeBron.
You know,
Uh,
you got to go with the king.
Got to go with the king. Seriously, man. Spider-Man: No Way Home is a perfect movie. Perfect movie.
Yeah, like it's fan service, it's nostalgia, it's you know, but that coupled with multiple different Spider-Man getting character growth and closure and arcs, like we get the great power comes great responsibility. You know, like the villains come back and get a second shot. The ones that got, especially the ones that got short shifted in this later Sony movies, but
Yeah.
also movie guys that got killed off before they could really do some better work in the universe. That being, Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin and Alfred Molina. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, my God, that scene when he cures Doc Ock, that was
Yeah.
incredible. Like, that was a perfect Spider-Man moment. Like that's what Spider-Man is. Like he wants to help people, including the bad guys. Like I love that about the character. And they nailed it 3 times. Because there's three. Perfect. Almost I mean, don't get me wrong, I think it could have been some weird editing choices again, like we mentioned in our Spider-Man spoiler
Yeah.
cast around
Yeah.
the how May gets hit and that pacing of the reveals of the different Spider-Man, a little off.
Yeah.
Could have maybe happened a little sooner.
Yeah.
Or something gets shifted around there in the editing and I no longer have an issue, but that is like the nitpick of nitpicks because this movie's right up there with Winter Soldier for me for the best of the MCU.
Yeah. It's. I will say. So you're saying it's up there because for me it's number two. It's Winter Soldier is still
I
number
could see it
one.
anywhere 2 through
And then
5 depending on what I'm wanting to watch.
okay.
Because of course it's got the ensembleness of the Avengers, kind of movies, but
Yeah.
it's really more singular story, much like Winter Soldier was. But I mean, with Winter Soldier, I mean, Jesus Christ.
It's a great movie.
I mean, that's right up there with the best action movies of all time.
Yeah.
It's that good. And it's Captain
Ah,
America. But back to Spider-Man No Way Home, like, yeah, I could put it anywhere 2 through 5 on the MCU, like, which alone means it has to be number 1 on this list for 2021. What a great time with the
man,
movies.
it just, we knew what they were gonna do. They did their best to try to hide it. We knew we were gonna get all three of them. The biggest thing was I didn't realize I didn't expect how much people were going to embrace Garfield's Peter Parker. You know, I think that he was a great casting. I think that Sony really screwed up the Amazing Spider-Man, those two films, and I would like to see a third film. I would.
If they're going to bring a
Um,
Spider-Man into their new universe with the Sinister Six, bring Garfield back, man.
yep, I agree. I agree. Um, I just it's interesting because we're gonna see more and more of these ensembles with Marvel and Disney, and it does make people nervous because they're like, "Am I gonna get too much?" This was a movie where we knew we were gonna get a lot and then some, and we were still happy because everyone's role they were given enough screen time. They were we our stories carried along. At the same time, we closed a lot of plot points from old IP, which was so interesting to think about because have we how when has that ever happened, when has that ever happened in movies before where a different movie, like a different iteration of this IP, um
The only thing I can
it's
think of is Crisis on Infinite Earths. Bringing in,
true.
but that was way smaller scale.
Yeah, it was. Uh, But I think we're gonna when we look back on this movie, we're gonna and I'm hoping we do get three more, even more, 4 or 5 more MCU movies with Tom Holland.
Well,
Because I
they're
think
backing up the Brinks trucks
yeah,
like
I
right now.
will.
They're loading them up.
Rumor is he's going to get 20 million plus for the next one. The rumor is he's going to get Robert Downey Jr. going forward
And he
because
should, because if you're gonna
he's a
linchpin
billion.
the MCU on him, Fucking pay
Yep.
that dude his money.
Well, his individual films are now billion-dollar films. His last 2 MCU films are billion-dollar films, so, I mean, you've got to pay him.
As long as he
You
doesn't
have to.
Letitia write it, pay that dude.
Oh, Lord. He seems like a nice guy. He seems very
He
level-headed.
gets it. He gets the he seems like he's
Yeah.
got his own shit down.
But I also know that he also has a bit of a passion for stage, and so maybe
I
he
could see him
decides to.
like being the Robert Pattinson that decides to stay doing blockbusters instead of
Yeah,
go do indie shit for 10 years and
yeah.
now be back as Batman, which is gonna be fucking dope.
Well, remember, he's still very, very young. He's 25.
Yeah,
He's got a
exactly.
long
Like, yeah.
he's got a long way to go till he thinks he really wants to dig into Oscar-worthy material. But then again,
Though no joke.
people
No, they're gonna make a push for No Way
that
Home's
No Way
Best
Home,
Picture. And given the
yep,
dearth of great stuff we had this year, like it was a slimmer year compared to even
a lot leaner,
2019,
yeah,
just because of
pretty lean,
COVID, right? Like that happened.
yeah,
No Way Home was awesome. Like
yeah,
at some point, the Oscars need to be like, okay, let's not be snuffy dicks. Like at some point, people loving to go movies need to fucking matter,
yeah.
and people love to go watch this shit because you need to get over that whole Martin Scorsese. Oh, they're not art. Fuck you, dude. They're art. Okay, I don't care that you don't like to make it. You don't get to say they're not art. Point blank. Right? Like that's
Yeah.
just what it is. And if the movie's that good and hitting this well with an audience and critically, yeah, no shit, it should have been up. The
I
Dark
mean, it's
Knight should have been up.
it's the highest Rotten Tomatoes viewer score ever, right?
Up there. I don't know if it's the 100, because what movie Paddington 2 was for the longest time.
Oh,
Until
I
someone
forgot
gave it a
about
negative review like 2 years later,
just to
and
break it,
just to
yeah.
break it down. But like that was number one for forever.
I totally forgot Paddington was 100
Like
on
Dark Knight was the
Tomato.
movie that made them go from 5 to 10 for Best Picture. This might be the comic book movie that actually wins. Though I think Dark Knight probably should have. Given the year it was in, Dark Knight should have won. It
Do
wasn't
you
even
think
nominated and it should have won.
yeah, I mean, yeah,
What a movie that was. Oh my god.
yeah.
That truck flip scene will forever be in my brain. Just incredible.
We say that, but I will tell you this, Batman Begins is a
Was dope.
great
Oh,
film.
don't get the entire no one everyone shits on Dark Knight Rises, but it's still a damn good movie.
It's a
Like
great movie.
like
No,
come on.
it's a very, very good
Come on.
movie. But back to what you're saying, I've seen a lot of people say if there was a year that an MCU movie could win an Oscar, this is the year. I don't think it's just the fact that it's lean. This is a good movie. Like it's
Yeah, I think
great
we've reached a
acting.
critical mass on the critic side where people
Yeah.
have been like, "Okay, we get it. They're good." Like we've reached a critical mass there.
Yeah,
Where, you know,
quit edge lording, quit being an edge lord and saying, "Well, it's not art, so it's a cheap pop," is what they call it in wrestling. It's a cheap pop. No, no, it's a good movie. Winter Soldier was a great movie. It should have won some awards.
yeah, Winter
You
Soldier
know,
was just again just the perfect action spy movie. Like it
yeah,
was right up there with the best. Again, Mission Impossible's never been nominated, but Mission Impossible Fallout was incredible,
yeah, it was. Yeah,
right? Like
um, yeah. There's no there's no reason why this movie is not number one. I mean, somebody could come in and argue, say, if they want to jump in and say Dune was number one. I will tell you, Dune was beautiful. Dune was great, but No Way Home encapsulated so many other things outside of that. There was action, there was humor that was executed very well. Equally great cast. John Watts is
yeah,
direction of the film. Perfect. It's like there's and then the ending on top of all of that, the ending it
Reese,
fit.
yeah, it
It
works.
was it was a Spider-Man. It ended as tragically as a Spider-Man story ends.
Yeah, like the fact that they were able to work that kind of one more day motif into the MCU and stick the landing
Yep.
is a testament to film adaptation. Just
And then at the very end,
period.
the last scene we get is a traditional uniform a costume that he sews up in his little bitty apartment. He takes his scanner and he goes to look to be the neighborhood Spider-Man all over again. That's like this is the epitome of every Spider-Man story, and it's like I have no complaints here. Like
Yeah,
at the end of it, I'm like, I have no complaints. This is exactly what I wanted. I wanted a Spider-Man story, and I know Homecoming was more of a Spider-Man story. Far From Home was more of a let's wrap up the Avengers sagas type of movie with him, and I get it. This was very different. Like I know people complained about Marissa Tomei's Aunt May not getting enough character depth. She got a lot in here, and unfortunately she dies in the film. But that's the story of Spider-Man. Like we and I know fans are like, oh my god, I don't want to see MJ die in this one because I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. But it's like
But then having Andrew Garfield be the one to save her.
and yeah, exactly. That was a story in a different iteration of the character in a different world that got his resolution. And it's like, fuck, man, like it's just so much of it. And it's just so much emotion. Like there were times where you felt highs, and there were times where you felt lows. At the same time, you laughed and you cried. Like it's just like, and then you were
And then that
entertained.
bittersweet finale. Just
Yeah, and that bittersweet Spider-Man finale. You're just like, okay, all right. And you didn't feel like you were being pushed at it. Like it's like, okay, we're gonna do it again. We're gonna do it again just because we want to and we can. It's like, no, this is how what Spider-Man has to do. These are the choices. This is the life he has to make because with great power comes great responsibility. And we get everything in this. The only thing we didn't get was an Uncle Ben. We didn't get an Uncle Ben,
and
but
we didn't get Charlie Cox in
and
the suit. But we got
we
Charlie
didn't get
Cox.
Charlie Cox. But we got Charlie Cox. We got him doing some cool shit
He's a really
and
good lawyer.
yeah. So it's number one for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, number one here for me too, which brings me to the only one we haven't done, which is my honorable mention. And
Okay.
this one might actually surprise you.
Okay.
I've rewatched it now a second time, all 4 hours of it. Zack Snyder's Justice League. Because it's on my
Wow.
honorable mention, because there is a 3 hour and 15 minute of this cut that might have cracked my top three.
Really?
There's the fluff really drags this movie, and the fact that it was made during COVID, the audio mixing's off, like some of the stuff's way too loud.
Yeah.
And, and Snyder's movies are always loud, but they're usually properly mixed. The Junkie XL stuff, doing the soundtrack, it's too much, and I don't know if doing it in person in COVID would have helped. I actually think it would have. Like doing it all remote, because he was the only one doing the editing, and then the sound mix stuff just all got sent to him, to Junkie XL, and then that was it. Like apparently that was the process. That's normally not how those things work, And obviously this only happened because of COVID. Wouldn't have happened without it. But COVID itself also kept it from being better, I think, is how that reads to me, right? And a couple of the reshoots that they couldn't do, like getting Harry Lennox in with everybody else wasn't
Yeah.
possible, that kind of thing. Reads like there were some issues really dragging against it. Plus, there's 30 minutes of slow mo that's unnecessary. There's this weird Norse singing that goes on for like 5 minutes, totally unnecessary. Wonder Woman's theme needs to be dropped like 12 decibels, like do all those things. And this movie's borderline great, but it's already pretty good. Like you tighten up that editing, there's a way better cut of this movie we're never going to see, which really sucks. There's no
Yeah.
way Warner Brothers is going to say, okay, here's another like 2 million to bring in a team of editors to do it or whatever. They really wouldn't cost that much. I don't think, if you have all the masters and everything, to like remix it and trim it. That's all you need to do. And Zack Snyder's Justice League is 3 hours and 15 minutes. Plus, you're excising all the nightmare shit. You don't need that. All the future stuff, you don't need it.
Yeah.
There's like again, about a 45-minute faster movie here that's legitimately a great Justice League movie. And I'd love to see it.
But to be fair, at least Snyder got to tell the
Yeah.
story that he wanted to tell,
And
and we
Ray Fisher
enjoyed
comes
it.
off so much better.
Yes.
Like Momoa comes off better. Everybody does. Cavill
comes
gets
off
to be
better.
Superman.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? He gets to be Superman. And they
A
used
much better story with Steppenwolf and the Amazons,
yeah,
the
this is the
Amazonians.
movie
Like,
that the trailers promised.
yeah.
That was the weirdest part about Justice League is they used Snyder's trailers, but Whedon's cut of the movie.
Yeah.
Of course it didn't work. But like there's this scene in the cornfield where Cavill, like you see him in the house and you like see Cavill's just like there's like that little like tick and like all of a sudden you see the memories like just flooding into his brain, right?
Yep.
It's all metaphorically, of course, but you see him become Clark Kent again after coming back to life. as
Yeah.
Kal-El. You see him become Clark Kent, and the scene in the cornfield where he turns to Lois, like the. So I take it that's a yes. That's not in the Whedon cut, and it's awesome because in that is as soon as he says that, you know, he's back. Superman's back, right? And he's actually Superman. You know, and that whole sequence is just vintage Smallville Clark Kent distilled into just a great scene. And it makes me I'm so bummed we're not going to get more from Cavill as Superman. I will literally be shocked if Warner Brothers wakes out of their, drunken money stupor to make more Cavill Superman. Cuz he wants
Oh,
to, the fans want him to, WB doesn't give a shit.
he's gonna be Hyperion in the MCU.
Wouldn't
Book
shock
it.
me.
Book it.
That or the guy that just came back that they brought him in the comics. Miracle Man?
Oh, I forgot Miracle Man's coming back. Oh
Yeah,
wow,
who
that
was
that
their answer to Shazam.
Shazam, but that actually he's perfect for Miracle Man.
Yeah, like I was thinking that the other day. I was reading the Polygon article about like this week in comics, and like Marvel's bringing back this old character. I was like,
Yep.
wait, Henry Cavill is. Oh my
Miracle
god,
Man.
Henry
Yeah.
Cavill is Shazam, and or this Marvel version of him. I mean, fuck, it's perfect. Like it's perfect, too perfect. I can't imagine like Marvel Studios and comics now working in concert. They've had some shit where they're very clearly either setting stuff up or moving stuff in comics in response to where they're gonna go with the movies.
Yeah.
That one sticks out of me of like a something's happening there. They saw how that everybody loved Shazam. We got this old Fawcett Comics character that's basically a one-to-one ripoff. Get us Henry Cavill and we're gonna beat the shit out of DC again with a
I totally. Oh my god! I just like that he's outside of being a blonde. The character has blonde hair. Outside of that, perfect casting would be Miracle Man.
yeah,
Perfect.
perfect.
And he could jump into so many things in the MCU like Carol Danvers can as Captain Marvel.
Uh huh.
He, he could do space. He could do TV. He could do shows. And like he
Because
could.
clearly Cavill doesn't mind doing streaming shows.
Yeah. The only thing is that Miracle Man, it's a character that people really don't know, so I think it'd be hard, kind of like Eternals, to have his own film. But you could do a TV show, you do a series of Miracle Man. I think people would really jump into it.
Yeah.
Kind of like Moon Knight. It's a character was like Moon Knight. No, don't do a movie. Do a show. Yep. Okay. Perfect.
Yep.
Perfect. Same thing with Daredevil. Needed to be a series, not a movie.
Yep. Okay. Well, that's everything on our list. Chat,
Yep.
before we wrap up, we'll do an outro here. Let us know what you have on your movies for 2021. And we'll get off. We'll check them out here after we do our outro. So, speaking of outros, we're well past an hour on this one, like an hour 20. But fuck it,
Okay.
it was a great time. 3
Yes, it
hours of
was.
stream in total. Crazy stream. We recorded episode 33 and 32 back to back. So if you've been listening here on episode 33, be sure you head on over to twitch.tv/MrWartburg. That's MrWartburg. We stream our episodes every other week ish is our usual pattern of recording, and then I'll edit them after the fact and put them up on YouTube and audio podcast services. If you're listening on a podcast service, drop a rating or a review. That certainly helps our algorithm as we get into 2022 to hopefully grow the show a little bit. And if you're on YouTube, drop a like, comment, let us know what your lists were in the comments below. And if you have a review where you can type, let us know what your lists for movies and show were too. Maybe things we should check out that aren't on our lists. Maybe there's just new stuff that we haven't checked out. Always a good time to do stuff like that. That's why we have an entertainment podcast.
Yep.
Fusion, any closing thoughts on the year that was entertainment 2021?
You know what, man? You and I, we talk about doing this show as a labor of love, I guess, is what we can call it.
More or
We
less, yeah.
want
It's just we sit down and we're going to talk about this shit anyway.
Yeah. So
You
might as
know?
well just put it on tape, and if people want to jump in, people want to jump in on the conversation, you're always welcome to. I will tell you, man, it was a good year for content. We keep talking about December being a huge month of content, and we've got plenty more coming over the next couple days, next day or so. But I can't wait for next year, man, because there's just so much that can happen. I'm hoping, man, maybe in 6 months, 7 months from now, you and I are doing a show where we rented out a private screening and we're watching Doctor Strange or watching something in the theater with a group of people that we know, we feel like we're safe. Yeah, I'm hoping that can happen, man. I really am.
Same here. It's on my list. I'm like
Yeah.
kicking around vacation plan ideas, and I'm like, I might have to do something. I might have to do a late RTX trip and then stay the week after.
Yep.
That's certainly a possibility, but that'll come later into 2022. For now, we're going to close up shop here on episode number 33. Episode 34 is going to be in about a week and a half, if I've done my math right.
Yep.
We're going to probably skip New Year's week. Not a lot of brand new content that week anyway. Everyone mostly gets out of the way of football when it comes to new
Mhm.
content. Peacemaker starts the 13th, but we'll probably do an episode more specifically about have they managed to right the ship on Book of Boba Fett with 2 more episodes that come out by the time we do our next episode.
Yep.
It'll probably be sometime around episode 3 of Book of Boba Fett. We'll be looking to do the next episode. So for now, everyone have a great start to your 2022. Thank you for listening and or watching. And we'll see you next time.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.